You know, being here in North Carolina, we were watching the hurricane come for, God, it felt like weeks. I guess it was probably more like a week.
Yeah.
Our first concern was getting our farm ready and prepared for the worst.
It's never single digits, it's never thousands, it's millions of animals that die from these hurricanes whenever they come through. And our goals and our objectives are to shed the light and help the most neglected and affected on earth, and that's farm animals. We were actually there the day before the flood started, so we can start mapping out areas that could be the most affected.
We knew there's animals that needed help, so we said, let's go see what we can do. My first day out, we found a deer. There's a deer actually on an old chicken house. She'd probably been clinging to the roof of this thing for who knows how long. She had some bad wounds and everything. We were able to get her onto the boat, back to shore, and treat her as best we can. We're hoping it was a good outcome. It's hard to say, but at least we're able to get her to dry ground. One of our local guides, I guess you could say, took us to where he knew there were some dogs on porch stranded, so we were able to get them back, find them homes. There's a lot of really morbid, somber things we saw, you know, going by a chicken house. You know, the doors were closed and you could just smell the death coming out of there, and you know there was tens of thousands, if not 100,000 birds in there that basically were just trapped and left to drown, and there was no way for them to escape. Saw a lot of stuff like that along some of the rivers. We saw lagoons, pig lagoons that had flooded over, so you know that's contributing to horrible pollution. The bacteria in there is going to be killing fish, making drinking water not safe, just really bad pollution across the board.
There's definitely no separation between the flooded areas and the lagoon, which is what you're looking at right here, all over. And it just extends out.
The water itself was the biggest threat. Knowing just how polluted it is, how many diseases are probably floating around in there, you know, basically washing off of all these CAFOs. That was the biggest concern, was trying to limit exposure in the water as much as you can, and being careful in that way. That was definitely the biggest threat.
In the moment, I was so unprepared for it, and I was unprepared to see just all the damage that had been done to the homes and to my friends and family members' homes, you know, people that I'm really close with. But then to get in and actually see like this herd of cows that's struggling and fighting so hard to stay alive above the water. What motivated me is just knowing that these are animals who are no different than a dog or a cat or a horse that other people were out there risking their lives for. You know, animal control had been in the water, going out to help horses that were stranded. Just because these are pigs and they were born and bred and raised for consumption, the fact that nobody was trying to help them, you know, that motivated me to want to help them more. It's so unfathomable to me that we allow this to happen as a society. That's probably the most difficult part of it.
Our group was able to save 50 chickens, 3 dogs, a deer, and 3 pigs, on top of just kind of assisting and directing other people to other locations where there are other animals saved as well. 2 pigs that we rescued from the flood. We have Flo and Jax.
Jax was basically drug out of water like last seconds before drowning.
They came from a factory farm, a CAFO. When I saw Jax, I pretty much thought he was dead. I mean, just laying down, not moving, not reacting to anything. He's just really exhausted. He'd probably been swimming in those floodwaters for days and days and days.
Jax and Flo, when we rescued them, it was horrific. It was horrific. And the reason why we couldn't get into the waters even with waders on is because there are alligators out there. You know, one of our mottos is to take animals out of the very worst situations and give them the greatest lives imaginable. And these guys are the best examples of how we can do that. And
I love those babies.
Look at that. That was so fun.
You know, in a weird way, the flood was kind of the best thing that happened to them, because that's what got them out, and that's got them away from kind of just being destined for slaughter.
They wanted to live. They have a will to live unlike anything we've ever seen. There are so many animals out here that the vets will tell you the exact same thing. They don't want to die. They want to live and they want to love and they want to be loved, and that's all they want. They are just the most special animals ever. In North Carolina, on any given day, there's anywhere between 9 and 11 million pigs in CAFOs. The CAFO is basically like a tent. It's like tent city, okay? And in these tents are just very, very confined spaces that are just filled with as many pigs as they possibly can. And they like to keep them very contained because they don't want them to get the exercise. The more contained they are, the quicker they can put on weight.
A group of us, we had found 10 pigs that were stranded. Some of our fellow activists had actually camped out there overnight, and we started loading up the pigs, hoping we could find them a good home. One of our local friends, she believed to know who the farmer was, so we had a strong idea that we'd be able to save them, take them to sanctuary, and negotiate that with the farmer. Unfortunately, they were quote unquote owned by a different farmer who wasn't willing to cooperate with us at all. He looked at it more or less as we were stealing, which I don't really believe to be the case, considering that they're abandoned in floodwaters and they've been out there for 4 days and he had never really attempted to find them. But the law was that they are his property and we were forced to return those pigs back to him. So that was devastating, to say the least, spending a good 24 hours trying to rescue those poor animals, knowing that they're going back and we're essentially going to be killed. Or if they were to be sent to slaughter and put into be used as a food source, they're probably going to make people sick because they've been in highly contaminated septic water for 3-4 days. So either way, I can't understand why they wouldn't want those animals to just have a good life going forward. But I think it's really simple why you should care about pigs. I mean, you've been out here today, you see the way Flo and Jax react. I mean, they're like a kid on Christmas, so excited and so happy to not be in their cage. And, just because someone doesn't necessarily have an attachment to pigs doesn't mean that they don't feel the same way like your dog does. They feel pain, they want to love, they want to live just like a dog or cat or anything else. And I think we as a moral society should care about that. When we rescue these types of animals like Jax and Flo and Benny, and it doesn't even matter, like our cows, always we're gonna get grief, we're gonna get lashback. We are getting it from the people who are feeling the effects of people choosing a kind and compassionate way of living. It's an industry that is very fierce. It is very strong and it can be very scary, and it is very scary. There's one plant in Tar Heel, North Carolina. They slaughter 30,000 Jax and Flo's every day. The one in Clinton, Smithfield plant down there, they slaughter 10,000 Jax and Flo's every day. What I would do to save them all, I would do anything. They are coming up with any type of excuse whatsoever to shut down activism so you don't see the brutal truth. And it's ugly. It's ugly in every way. It was ugly before the hurricane, and it's even uglier after the hurricane. Some people might not care about animals, but I hope people decide that they want to start caring about themselves and future generations. We don't want these farmers to suffer. We don't want these farmers' families to suffer. There are other industries that we can be able to utilize the land that they have these CAFOs on. It's hard for these farmers who have grown up in a farming community just to turn on all their friends who are going to continue to farm animals and say, hey, what we've done our whole life is wrong, and I'm making a turn. I'm turning the page, and we are going in a whole new direction. And the greatest thing that we've been able to see lately is farmers going vegan and turning their farms into farm sanctuaries. That is about the most beautiful thing ever. And we hope that there are going to be so many more farmers that will be able to take that step. I don't really think of Chris and I as heroes. I think we're just really fortunate to be in the position we are through Ziggy and all our supporters. We're just thankful we're actually able to help out. I think there's a lot of people that do the same thing.